Hello. Hi everyone. Okay, so this is the monthly training or monthly live and for November, and I'm going to talk about the anti-inflammatory diet. I'm Alice, by the way, in case you don't know me, and this is my group, and I am a nutritional therapist, and I also specialise in thyroid health and helping tired women generally. So yeah, let's get on with it. It's the anti-inflammatory diet. Say hi if you want to. And so yeah, I'm going to get on with it. So basically, what is inflammation? Well, inflammation is the body's natural response to protect itself when it gets harmed, basically. It's very beneficial. It's, as I said, protective. It sends blood flow to the area, carrying lots of white blood cells, which are there to kill infection, prevent infection. And also there may be swelling, which again is protective. That is what is known as acute infection. So then there's also chronic or long-term infection. And this is what is a big problem. So chronic inflammation is generally what is at the root of most disease. So, you know, from things like heart problems, depression, Alzheimer's, cancer, you know, they all have inflammation as part of them. And in some cases, that may actually be the source. Also things like increased fat cells, that will cause inflammation. In arteries, I've already talked about heart problems. Inflammation there can cause atherosclerosis. And so yeah, it's a big problem. So when it comes to autoimmunity, and as we know, over 90% of hypothyroidism in this country is caused by autoimmune thyroid disease or Hashimoto's. There is inflammation. So any kind of autoimmunity, there is inflammation as a response. This is what contributes to the autoimmune response, and this is what the autoimmune response comes from triggers that trigger inflammation. So it's all kind of entwined. Hi Joe, and hi Amanda as well. If you say hi or comment or anything, then it means that more people will be shown that I'm going live, so maybe more people will get to see this. So the inflammation in autoimmunity is chronic or long term. So what I'm going to do today basically is just run through, it's not going to be particularly long, the foods which are inflammatory and then the foods which are anti-inflammatory and can kind of oppose and reduce the inflammation that is already in our body from all kinds of things. There's always going to be inflammation. Our body is constantly tackling inflammation. But what we don't want is for it to be chronic and it to go on and on and on. But yeah, there are certain foods which will help reduce that chronic level of inflammation. And there are certain foods which will make it worse. So there are 6 main food types, some are drinks actually, which are in general inflammatory. Some people appear to be able to get away with consuming them a lot of the time. I would argue that if they keep consuming them, in quantities for a long time, then there will be knock-on effects to their health at some point. So those 6 things are gluten, dairy, alcohol, caffeine, vegetable oils, and sugar. So gluten and dairy, yes, loads of people consume them, but they are inflammatory in their nature. The body does find them quite hard to deal with. And people that can just eat loads of them, as I say, they might be getting away with it now, but there's likely to be, a certain element of inflammation that's being caused in their body by these foods. Alcohol's fairly obvious. Caffeine may be fairly obvious. By the way, caffeine in small amounts is absolutely fine. And even alcohol, actually I can't really say that. If you don't have very much alcohol at all, then you'll probably get away with it. But basically, alcohol is toxic in its nature. So I can't really say, yeah, you can go and alcohol's fine. It's a healthy thing, because it's not a healthy thing. And sugar is inflammatory. And vegetable oils these are the vegetable oils. So things like sunflower oil, any vegetable oil that's labelled vegetable oil. Sounds healthy, it's got vegetable in the title, but it's not. So these are very high in trans fats, which are really bad for our heart health. So they're very high in omega-6, which is very inflammatory. Things like margarine are very high in trans fats. I would always recommend going for butter if you're okay with dairy. I've just said that dairy is an issue and now I'm saying eat butter. Butter is actually the type of dairy which is probably least harmful, and if you can get an unpasteurized one, then you may get some benefits. Well, you will get some benefits from it as well. So yeah, ideally avoid those spreads. They're going to have those trans fats in them, margarine spreads. Okay, so then there are lots of other foods which can be inflammatory for some people. Well, actually are inflammatory in general. So things like peanuts, they are quite inflammatory. They again have lots of omega-6 fats, which are the inflammatory type of fats. Grain-fed beef is quite inflammatory. So most beef that we get from supermarket is fed on grain, and this is inflammatory. If you can get beef that is fed on grass, which is a lot harder to get, then this is actually not. You're going to get loads of health benefits and it's not inflammatory. You're going to get the omega-3 fats in there, which I'll come on to in a minute. And then soy can be inflammatory for some. Corn and grains can be, but not for everybody. And nightshades can also cause a problem for some people. So nightshades are potatoes, tomatoes, all the really useful things. Potatoes, tomatoes, aubergines, peppers. And then two other areas are, well, processed foods in general. They're going to have, lots of sugar in them. They're going to have lots of the oils that I've already mentioned. So, by working out what I said on those six starter ones, processed foods are going to have a lot of those things in them. So yeah, generally are inflammatory. Also processed meats, so sausages, ham, salami, all those things sadly are inflammatory. So, is olive oil bad? Says Amanda. No, I'm just coming on to that. So, when it comes to an anti-inflammatory diet, we look towards the Mediterranean diet. However, I think using that term can be really, really misleading, because when I think the Mediterranean diet, I think of bread and cheese, but it's not that. It is, it's lots of these foods that I'm about to mention. So first of all, green leafy vegetables. These are huge. These are full of antioxidants, as are brightly coloured fruits, by the way. And antioxidants will, basically counteract some of that inflammation. If there's any kind of veg that you need to eat more of, it's green leafies. If you can eat them every day, that's brilliant. Brightly coloured fruits as well. If you can get lots of different coloured vegetables and fruits, then you're going to get a bigger range of different antioxidants. And then oily fish contain loads of those omega-3 fats, which counteract the inflammatory omega-6 fats. So oily fish, there's an acronym, SMASH. So sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon and herring. Or you can put salmon first if you like, because salmon is the most popular. I would always recommend wild salmon. There are more omega-3s in wild salmon than in farmed salmon. And in farmed salmon, there's actually a higher level of omega-6. So they may well balance each other out. I haven't looked at the detail, but Farm salmon also usually contains a lot of antibiotics because they get loads and loads of salmon to one small area of water, and so they need to give them antibiotics so that disease doesn't spread, which is pretty revolting. So sardines and mackerel are, if you like them, obviously it's a bit of a love or hate thing, I think, but if you like them, they're brilliant. You can use them in a tin, get them in olive oil, and they are just brilliant for your omega-3 levels. As I said, grass-fed beef also has good omega-3. So yeah, a huge part of anti-inflammatory eating is eating these omega-3 fats. If you can't get grass-fed beef and you don't like oily fish, then a supplement is recommended, good quality one. So other than that, extra virgin olive oil, Amanda asked about olive oil, is brilliant. It doesn't have omega-3s in it, but it has lots of other anti-inflammatory benefits. And what we want to do, the thing with oils, so someone's already asked what's the best oil to cook with. This is a tricky one. Basically, oils, whenever they're heated, are their state is changed. Certain oils are more stable at higher temperatures. So coconut oil is one of those. Avocado oil is one of those. Olive oil is fairly good. Rapeseed oil that you've mentioned, I think, is fairly good too. So any of those probably be okay to cook with. Extra virgin olive oil, you're going to get the benefits, far more benefits if you eat it cold. So feel free to drizzle extra virgin olive oil on, obviously salads, but like you can put it on vegetables, on soups, anything that's already cooked, and you're not going to then go and cook the olive oil, just to sprinkle it on some extra flavour. Get one of those dispenser things so it doesn't all come out. And okay to cook with as well. But yeah, just be aware when you're heating fats, you are likely to be changing their state at some point, which can mean that they turn into fats that are bad for us. So maybe fry with water where you can, or a mixture, use slightly less, and then stick to those more stable oils. Then the next thing that's really anti-inflammatory is herbs and spices. So, rosemary, thyme, oregano, then garlic, ginger, turmeric, which you may well know is very well known as anti-inflammatory. But herbs and spices are real little powerhouses of antioxidants and of nutrients and anti-inflammatory goodness. So just use them as much as you can. I find it quite hard to get into the habit. I am using them more and more, but I'd love to use them at every meal without thinking about it, but I forget. But try and get into that habit. Even dried ones, you're going to get some benefits from. And then nuts. Nuts are good. Some nuts, as I mentioned, peanuts, although they are a legume, I think, are higher in omega-6 fats. So you don't want to go crazy on those. The ones that are, so nuts and seeds, the ones that have omega-3 are walnuts, also chia seeds and flax seeds. So they're great. Flaxseed is wonderful for hormone balance if you're menopausal, perimenopausal. Having a couple of tablespoons of flax seeds every day, ground flax seeds, is going to help you replace some of that lost estrogen. So flax is a phytoestrogen, a plant estrogen, so it can act similarly to estrogen in the body. So as our estrogen levels drop at menopause, then eating flax can help plaster over some of that a little bit and reduce some of the symptoms that come with lower estrogen. A bit of an aside there. Coconut oil, already mentioned that. So that's it for the foods. What about spreads like almond butter? Yes, I love almond butter. Yes, it's great. Again, don't go crazy with it, because having too many nuts can be inflammatory. but fine to have, absolutely fine. And it's fine to have some of these foods which have more of the omega-6 fats, but we just need to make sure we're tipping the balance in, you know, the other way. We're having a decent amount of omega-3s as well. I heard recently there's benefit to soaking nuts, i.e. Brazil. Is that true? Yes, there is benefit. So there's things called phytates, which are so there's things called anti-nutrients, which are in foods, and they are anti-nutrients, and they basically get in the way of us absorbing the good nutrients from the food, which is really annoying. And they come in all kinds of foods that are good for us, nuts being one of them. So if we soak nuts, then this reduces the phytic acid in there, so we're going to get more of the benefits. We're not going to get the crunch in the same way. So you can buy and you can make something called activated nuts, which have been soaked and then dried out again, so they're kind of crunchy again. You can do that yourself if you have a dehydrator. Or if you just want to soak them, you're not bothered about the texture, then eating them that way, or putting them in a cake or your porridge or something, once you've soaked them, yes, that's going to be better. That's going to be a better way of eating them. But again, yeah, you're missing some of the crunch. And yeah, so that's it for the food. Let me know if there's any more questions. Another thing to mention when it comes to the anti-inflammatory diet or the anti-inflammatory lifestyle is that certain activities are inflammatory. And things that happen to us. So stress, for example, is very inflammatory to us. Not getting enough sleep is a huge one. Dealing with, you know, bad relationships, toxic people is inflammatory to our system. So how to counteract that is obviously making sure that you're getting sleep, prioritizing sleep. If you're not someone who has good sleep, then, you know, looking at how you can make it better, getting a better sleep routine, doing some research, how to improve things, maybe taking some magnesium. And exercising is anti-inflammatory as long as it's not too strenuous. So if you are someone who goes to does a HIIT class, like, you know, really pushes yourself every single day and you're exhausted afterwards, that's not good. That's inflammatory. But if you're doing exercise that suits your body and you're feeling good after it and you recover fairly quickly, then that's brilliant. That's anti-inflammatory. And then obviously, you know, stress relieving things like meditation, going for a massage, doing some deep breaths, going for nice walks are anti-inflammatory. And then the supplements I was just going to mention, I already mentioned omega-3. So fish oils, you generally get omega-3 supplements that are from fish oils, the oily fish that I was talking about. But if you are vegan, you can also get them from algae. There hasn't been the same amount of research on these supplements, but people seem to think they work, and I certainly recommend them to my clients if they're vegan. And they're made from algae. So that would be your number one. Turmeric or curcumin, which is the element in turmeric, which is the anti-inflammatory part, can be really good for as an anti-inflammatory supplement. I actually have them sometimes as kind of part of my medical cabinet, and if I get medicine cabinet, and if I get a headache, then I'll take one. And then quercetin is another one, great anti-inflammatory, natural. And then there's also, I don't know if you've heard of golden milk, which is basically, what's another word for it? Turmeric latte, basically. So making a plant-based hot drink with turmeric and a natural sweetener, and that's going to be anti-inflammatory. Although, to be honest, it's going to be more effective probably to take some turmeric supplements because you'll get more. But the act of looking after yourself, having a lovely warm drink that does have anti-inflammatory ingredients, is going to do you good anyway. So either or. So that's it. Are there any more questions? I don't think so. Okay, well, thanks for watching, guys. I do these once a month, so I'll be back with one in December. Not sure what it's on at the moment, but I'll be back in the group next Tuesday anyway, to answer questions. Thanks for watching. Bye.